Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning, this Matt.
This Jesse.
And per the usual notes, you can always reach out to us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at ITLBcast. Find us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning. And definitely take a look at our YouTube channel. And it is It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And we've been busy.
Yeah.
We were sitting here trying to figure out what on earth we were going to talk about. And there's about 12 different things, but I've been nonstop since April.
Yeah, it's been a mad dash. I'm honestly ready for a little rest.
Yeah, and I don't. So my new job with Delta, all I can say is thank God the fire conferences are basically over with. I didn't go to FRI, but I've been at
Oh, you were at FRI. You didn't go to FDIC.
FDIC, yeah. And just between that and the state stuff and then
Going to Louisiana.
And oh yeah, there's a department that we have to theoretically run on the side too. Speaking of that, we had a whopper of a call just
a couple nights ago.
Yeah, we'll bird dog onto that for just a half a second. It was 3 cars, right?
Yeah.
5 patients.
Yeah.
4 helicopters, 1 ground pound, 3 extrications. The definition of like a small town MCI.
On the main thoroughfare.
Yeah, on the main road.
That was shut down for
2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
spicy.
I don't know what you would call heavy extrication, but for small vehicle, passenger vehicles, these were heavy extrications. The patients were all significantly messed up. Luckily for all of them, they are in the hospital and recovering so far. So there's at least some good news on that front. And then we have probably our big thing is that what we're doing is we're gearing up for our fall fire academy. And that has the potential to be gigantic.
Yeah. It's going to be larger than average. And then on top of that, we've got our fall district meeting deal that we're working on with the 2 neighboring districts to get that ramped up into another large event. So October, and then sprinkle in the smattering of the normal 97 fire prevention stops in October.
Oh my God, I've already forgotten about fire prevention month.
Yeah. So
September and October are going to suck.
It's going to be spicy. And on top of that, we've got a bunch of other classes that we're trying to creep in here before the end of the year, because you hit Thanksgiving and then the year's kind of shot for the train, as far as training goes and stuff. I mean, you still do calls, you still have meeting, you still do stuff, but that's the kind of December we give that back to the families to do family stuff, and it's just, I'd rather them be spending the time through the holidays between Thanksgiving and New Year's with their families, and then capturing all their extra time at the fire station.
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, now that I really think about it, we have, let's call it 45 days to cruise, and then our academy starts, fire prevention starts. The gigantic area school is a 1-day thing, but that's going. If I didn't say fire prevention already, I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
And then,
because there's only 30 schools to go to.
Yeah, it's terrible for us. Yeah, and that'll take us right up to Thanksgiving. And we'll be hammered there. Then we have our Christmas party sometime first 2 weeks of December.
Yeah, kind of end of year awards and
all
that good stuff that we probably haven't prepared for enough as of yet.
There's while I was at FRI, uh, spoke to him once. We'll confirm with him again, but I think we have a pretty snazzy guest speaker that's going to be bouncing on. Uh, and trying to think if there's any actual fire related news for the state of Texas. I can say that everyone is officially aware of OSHA now.
Yeah.
Uh, that one's cat's finally out of the bag. The problem that I'm seeing is that a lot of people don't actually understand just how they're focusing on like one bad part, and they're not really realizing that there's lots of really questionable
Well,
effects on volunteer fire service
I
in that.
I keep seeing posts and stuff about, well, and the example is Texas is a federal OSHA state, so it's not, we're theoretically exempt, but you're not, right?
Yeah.
So you're theoretically exempt. Are they going to come inspect your station? No, they're not going to do that. That's not going to happen.
Here's where they're going
But
to catch
they're going to
everyone.
catch you on the grant side of
Right.
things.
It go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's go ahead, man. It that's what it is. That's where you're hammered.
You have to understand your AFG grants, you have to turn in paperwork for your eligibility already for those. And they're just going to make that part of it. Now, will it be out of the gate year one? No, it won't. Uh, but I mean, you have to understand that the NFPA 1582 Health and Wellness Program is going to be a requirement for a volunteer fire department if you are going to be building an AFG grant funded station.
Yeah, or you're doing anything that's
Right.
federal. So even your,
Training fields.
yeah, your rural USDA rural development grants that a lot of the rural part of the state gets to use. Those USDA funds are going to be tied to that, like anything that's federal funds. So for Texas, your Texas Forest Service grants are probably safe enough because that's state money, right? But anything that's coming AFG safer, uh, you're going to see that affect even the safer grant for the state association and
And you're
stuff.
going to have required documented training. You're going to have required documented passing of certifications. And this is top to bottom, firefighter to chief. CE hours documented. I mean, it is so all encompassing. Again, it's a 667-page document, and people are talking about one or two things. And every part of that document has a fundamental impact on volunteer,
Yeah.
period.
Well, it has an impact on essentially everybody. I mean, even your true fire brigades at industrial facilities and stuff that, I mean, they're not,
Oh, they would get decimated by
yeah, they're
this.
they're they're destroyed on some of this. I mean, it's so cost prohibitive, and I think that's the saving grace for it, is because when the AIA, the not the AIA, but the legislation that regulates federal regulations, like APA.
APA.
Yeah, the APA. So the APA, one of the big things is that it can't be so financially burdensome that it's unachievable, right? And I think
Right.
that's where this teeters at pretty hard, to the point where if it's going to put a significant amount of the organizations affected or companies affected by the regulation out of business because it costs too much for the regulation, then the regulation can't be. And
Right.
and that's a pretty solid concept in the APA. So I think that, and we saw this with the fishermen up in the Northeast that had to have and it just went through the Supreme Court about the guy on the boat, that they were having to pay a federal inspector to be on the boat to catch the fish, right?
Right.
And it's cost prohibitive. It costs more for that inspector than what the captain of the boat's making for him to just hang out and watch you catch fish. And that tends to be problematic,
Right.
you know. And I think that's where it's going to hit the hang up, but it's only going to hit that hang up if people basically complain about it, right?
You know, I,
You get
it's just, it's such a, I feel divided on it because at the end of the day, I like guidelines. I like recommendations.
well, and there's a certain amount of the standard and what the standard should be that's important. And safety and making everybody safer, you can't honestly argue against that, but you can argue against the fact that you shouldn't make it so expensive that it's undoable.
I mean, here's a novel concept. We would never do this, but it would be interesting to call the Texas Commission of Fire Protection into our VFD and have them do a TCFP inspection and just tell us in the areas where we need to improve. Uh, I don't see why states and arguably even the feds don't have a program like that. I mean, and you could do the same thing to leapfrog off of this and have your quote unquote OSHA emergency response graded inspection. And they come in and they tell you X, Y, and Z. And then, God forbid, they give you a score. And then you can use that score to go in for application of grants.
Yeah, the thing is though, it's not just a grading system and a score. There's punitive damages.
No,
There's
no,
there's
that's
civil
that's the
penalties
problem.
involved in
Like I
this, right?
said, guidelines and
Yeah,
recommendations, not
yeah,
a it can't be a scouring. Perfect example. Small, we'll just say it's a small volunteer department in small city. Real rural.
yeah.
New chief, typical struggles. They don't even know where to start. Okay. And other than being aware enough to call people that they do know for possible reference and help, they don't really have a lot of options for pulling out the Junior Woodchuck guidebook and saying, okay, this is what you have. This is where you're at. This is where you're scoring or grading pretty poorly. You're okay here. You're fine there. Focus here. Combine that with, I would argue, SFFMA so that you can get a training curriculum and program built up and then leapfrog off of that. I mean, it could be an actual benefit. I know, God, I just said it. Holy crap. The government could benefit you. Could. I don't
Good.
get me
Well,
wrong.
yeah,
They won't, but
that's the operative word. So, and that ties into a lot of there is no Junior Woodchuck guidebook,
no.
right? And
That's where the podcast
that's
came from.
that's what this has stemmed from. And oddly enough, I mean, we have tons and tons of departments that reach out to us on a daily basis trying to figure out solutions to problems. And do we always have the answer? Absolutely not. No, we don't. We don't profess to always have the answer, but we'll help you think about your problem at the least.
Yeah. Or in one case, tell you, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that's terrible. Don't do that. But you know, it's interesting that there. I'm not saying there's not consulting firms and stuff. There, all that stuff's out there, right? And
Yeah, but you don't need
but
to
you don't,
pay for it.
and you. Well, I'd argue pay us, but
Okay, you don't need to pay someone else. But yeah, it's just, I don't know.
it's hard because I mean, go Google search volunteer fire department consulting firm. It's so limited. It's impossible to find. It's a referral situation. Like there's nobody out there laying out a playbook really anything other than tactics. There's tons of playbooks on tactics. There's stuff about, you know, kind of some leadership development stuff and all that, and there's tons of information on that, but there's nothing that gets into the meat and the bones of organizations.
Right. And then you got, I mean, there's three parts of this. You have building the organization, you have the financing part, and then I will always argue PR/politics. And it's not, those are not remotely related, but they also directly can be levered with each other to build the organization. So you can't just focus on finance and really screw up the politics and come out the other side of that. But if you combine them, you can leverage them together and have
And the
a
PR and
fantastic
the yeah.
return on it.
Yeah, it's
I think the other kind of hard part in this is, so I'm taking this fire chiefs development class down in Austin. Great class. Highly recommend it for anyone in the state of Texas that's a volunteer chief to go take that class. Uh, that class needs to have two different segments to it: volunteer and ESD volunteer. And let me tell you, that ESD volunteer part, that actually needs uh, an extra week added to it. There's two common themes that I'm seeing in my sales territory and through that fire chiefs development class. There's a handful of ESDs that work really, really well. And I mean, these are really powerful, beneficial entities. And then everyone else is still trying to figure it out. And what does that proportional number look like? Eh, from the outside looking in, I'd call it about 5%, 95%. Because there is some real holy crap battles going on out there with ESDs. And I'll tell you what makes it, I would argue, even worse is a combination department.
yeah, I know that always throws a little hiccup in things.
Because what you, I won't mention where the ESD's at, but you have a fantastic chief and assistant chief that are combo. They know they can't increase their staffing. They have to only have a maximum of 4 people per shift. They want their volunteers to be on the department. They want their volunteers to join as young men and women, bridge, and ultimately have a career at this department. They are doing everything in their power to equip them, train them, make them feel welcomed, give them purpose and meaning. And on that board is a whole bunch of crusty, old, angry volunteers that somehow or another got on that board. And you have board members of the ESD showing up to the department on training night and telling the volunteers, don't train, you don't need to do that. But I don't even know what you do at that point. And the problem is that who can fire the chief? The board.
Yeah.
They're trying to. That's just a short answer. They're trying to fire him. They just can't. To take it one step further, they hired an HR firm because the board, not the fire department, the board had complaints against the admin of the department. So they hired an HR firm to evaluate the chief and the operations of the department. And the HR firm turned around and told the board, you need to fire yourself.
Wow.
You're the problem.
Wow. That kudos for that firm for standing for what's right.
That's how screwed up that was.
Yeah, no, kudos to them
Yeah.
for doing the right thing.
Uh, and that chief, like I said, I'm going to, because I've never asked him to speak about this on air, so I won't say his name or his department, but I mean, the man, he, it's the right guy. for a combo department. It's the right guy. He wants everything to be like the ideal combo department. Handful of paid guys on shift to handle all the minor calls. Have the volunteers on standby for when the big crap comes in. It's a beautiful situation for the volunteers. It's great. You only get to go to the fun stuff. You don't have to worry about all the toe pain at 17 hours at 2:30 in the morning on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I was having this discussion last night with one of our city council members, and I'm just like, I see lots of benefits to an ESD, but let me tell you, you better have your ducks in a row because that first 2 to 5 years is critical. Because if you screw that up, you have the wrong chief, you have the wrong board in place, you're set up for disaster.
Yeah, it's a struggle that it's I think the short-sighted look at we can fix our problems with funding puts these departments into a situation that they never guessed they'd be in and never understood the unintended consequences of their actions to support this, right?
Right.
Because in 8 out of 10 cases, this is such a fundamental change to the department that what you knew it was before is not what it is when it comes out the other side.
Right. And there's two, well, there's like 40 points to make here, but another ESD I know of, rural community, uh, with a like tourism flair to it on a lake. The people that sit on the board don't know what a fire truck is, much less really what a fire department does. So when the chief goes to them and says that I want to buy, one, two, three XYZ widgets and fobs and whiz wheels, they don't know. That's literally how they interpret it. They don't know what they're buying. Why? Well, because one of the board members is a school teacher and they've never done anything with the fire service. They don't know anything about the fire department. How do you have someone on a board that is there for fiscal responsibility and objectivity and have a competent discussion when they don't know what anything is and how the organization works?
Yeah, and that's on that board member for not doing the.
I would put it on the county commissioner,
Yeah, it's on them for
whoever
not
appointed him.
putting the effort into learning it. I mean, it's all learnable concepts.
Now, my only argument to that is that is a prime opportunity for the chief.
Yeah.
You need to go make a new best friend. Okay? Take the time, put the energy into it, be a benefit. Don't sit there and just do the sales pitch the whole time. Help them understand the organization. Help them understand the tools and equipment that you need and use.
Get them on some ride-alongs.
Right. Get them around the membership. Get them to be exposed to not the firefighters, the people that make up the organization that protects your community.
It's I don't know. It's a stretch to say that the state of Texas specifically could function without volunteers because it couldn't. Like that's not a thing. There is communities where there is not $100 to spend on firefighting stuff, right? They're that poor of a community out there.
I drive, there's some parts of my territory where I will drive almost 250 miles and there is no paid department in there.
Yeah, it's a stretch. So if your thought and your expectation in Texas is that you're going to just form a bunch of ESDs and convert it all to career, that's never going to happen.
No.
I mean, it can't happen. Even in some of those areas, the 10 cents a hundred that they could get in tax money isn't enough money to pay for the salary for one individual.
No.
It,
No.
it's not a thing. It's just not. But,
And it shouldn't be a thing, quite honestly.
yeah,
I mean, we're talking about putting paid staff in areas that have less than 20 calls a year.
yeah. It makes no sense. And then you got to find somebody that's willing to do that job, right?
Right.
Because that's not the young man's game. He doesn't want to sit there for 7 months and not go to something.
I mean, when we had our guys from Alpine here, huge county, they have parts of their territory where they respond 2.5 hours in one direction. There's nothing in between them. They are the closest department, and they're driving out to that call. Are you going to put a station out there? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
That's the problem and to kind of circle back to the ESD thing and to OSHA in general is that at the end of the day, you have to actually identify what you're trying to solve. What are you actually trying to accomplish instead of just taking a handful of regulatory spaghetti and throwing it at the wall and seeing how it remotely sticks and not even considering what it does? Uh, at the end of the day, it's just a significant factor that is going to be fiscally driven,
yeah,
period. That is the definition of to be an American. It is a fiscal drive, period.
yeah. And at some point, you reduce the quality of service. That's part of the problem and the argument against career where we're at, right? Is our city big enough to have a career fire department? Sure it is, right? But what's the cost? What is the true cost of that? And I'd argue to it's cost prohibitive even in our community because it's literally nearly double the taxes.
Well, and again, um, what are we actually fixing?
Fixing, right.
In
Yeah,
in this particular case, I would argue that not only are you not fixing anything, you're lowering the level of service.
right.
Uh
But
Case in point, we had that car accident that we were talking about. Big old whopper of a car accident. We had, let me think. Let me go through the list real quick. Both rescues, two command/rescues. So there was a minimum of 4 apparatus on scene. I think, and I could be wrong, I think there was 13 people on scene,
yeah,
all certified. Uh Command is in place. Uh one of the captains is his specialty is rescue. All of the firefighters have been rescue trained. I mean, hell, the last extrication on the last vehicle, the guy with the most experience on the tools, I don't think had been on the department. No, not even a year. Let me go through the. Oh nope, there was one there that's been there 5 years,
yeah.
5 or more. Um, Again, we would gain nothing by having a paid staff of 4. Like you lose in that situation. You lose on a house fire, you lose in an auto accident, you lose in this case. Now, if we start slipping and dropping the ball, well then yeah, we need to consider whatever we have to consider. Because
But
again, it's not about the Junior Woodchuck Club, it's about the citizens.
I think it's important too that to realize when you're I know some of these departments are incredibly behind the curve on some of this. And I think you got to realize that and start working towards addressing those situations early. And even if you address them late, continue to work on that because you're not pinned into a situation where the only option is the ESD and the rogue board and the paid staff. Like
Right,
that's
but
not the
I think that's the big difference between like us and then, throw Divine and Robinson in there. Uh Crescent, handful of other volunteer departments that I know, North Shore, Edgecliff, uh that here's the difference. Those departments are proactive when they have a problem.
So
They don't just sit there and bellyache and moan and then wish that something would change. They do something.
so I was having a conversation the other day with the same council member that you were having a conversation with, and we were talking about just kind of departments in general and what was kind of going on in the fringes of our area and I pinpointed one thing that we do different that probably has a significant bearing on our overall growth and position as being effective. And a lot of these departments are running academies, and a lot of these departments are doing recruitment and stuff, but they're doing it on a scheduled thing, a calendar, right?
Right.
So they recruit for these 2 months, and then they train for these 6 months, and then they coast for 4 months, and then they start the process over again. Well, we've taken a completely different approach to that, to where it's recruit 24/7, 365, train all throughout the year. The only month we coast in is December, and provide 2 academies a year and open invitation for other training throughout the year for anybody and everybody that wants to participate. And I think that's part of the kind of special sauce
Right.
that they all look at me when I talk to these other chiefs and stuff, and they're all like, well, that's too much work.
Right.
And it's like, well, is it? Is it too much work? Because once you've developed and built what you're doing, and you get to the point where it's, I wouldn't say on autopilot, but it's, the first one's hard, the second one's difficult, the third one's easy, right? And then after that, you just plug in the people in the spots and make things happen, because as you grow and develop, you've got the people to backfill and make it easier on the other end.
Yeah. Here's the other side of that story. Okay. Because I was this. So when I first tried to join Granbury, it was August. I got voted in October. Uh, and the only reason I got voted in is because there was one of the old guys, really, really good dude. I went up to him. I just told him, I said, I don't know what the hell you guys are doing. If you don't want me to join this department, tell me so I can stop wasting my time and I'll just go join another department. But I'm not coming to a fourth meeting to be voted on. It's not happening. Uh, and my application was turned in July. Okay. So, but I turned it in like 2 days after the
The
business meeting.
meeting.
So I went through August and September and realistically July and finally throw a fit in October. Well, I get voted on in October. My training started in June. I did nothing for 8 months.
Yeah.
It was the most pointless, stupid, ignorant, frustrating, absurd process that I've ever seen. And the only reason that I remotely stayed with this department was because there was a really good group of guys, uh, and Kevin, captain, and yes, even Kevin's a good guy at times, and he basically took pity on me, and I had the advantage of Kevin's son, who was turning 18 sometime that spring, I think, and between the guys hanging out at the station and Kevin, they kind of got fed up with it too and just started working with me. Um, and then finally went to A&M that summer. Um, so by August, I was officially done and kind of like cleared for writing apparatus. almost a full year.
Full year. See, and that's it doesn't work.
And this is why I got involved in training immediately. One, because I like training, but I wasn't going to allow that to happen again to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Worked with Kevin because he was training captain for several years. Just worked with Kevin and started building the program up in 2012, 2013, 2014, and just kept going. And here we are today. And the kicker to everyone, I would tell you, is that that's the one thing you have to understand is that everything that we talk about wasn't just the flip of a light switch. It took time, and it took a lot of preparation, and it took a lot of endurance. Even when it was easy to get disgruntled, don't just keep doing it. That's the hard part right
So
there.
let's bounce back to all these trade shows and stuff that we've been at and events. Coolest thing you've seen in the last handful of shows we've been to?
There was like this underwater submarine torpedo thing. Did you see that?
No, I did not see that.
That was interesting. Uh Let me think here. Uh
So I'll bounce in there. FRI just this last week in Dallas. These tracked robotic firefighting things. I don't even know what you call it. You connect a hose to it and send it into.
we'll call them robotic unmanned ground monitors.
Yeah. That, I mean, to me that's pretty dang cool. Like we've got something that you can send to the worst of the worst in the methyl kill your ass situation and just let it go do fireman stuff. I don't think it's anywhere remotely a replacement for firemen, right?
Right.
It's not. But it's that thing that you can send to that, anhydrous deal spill or that, you know, explosive truck or tanker truck that's on fire. Like you just keep feeding it hose and just let it go. It can drive a mile. It can go way over there. And if it blows up,
That's why you have
have some
insurance.
insurance on it, man. But that was really cool. That was a cool thing. And then there was a hose washing rolling machine that I didn't stop and talk to the people, but I watched this machine running over there, and it's like this big enclosed, you know, you stick hose in one end, and hose comes out the other end, and it's all rolled up. And like, I'm lazy enough that I think that thing's awesome.
I I have to admit, as many as these shows that I've been to, I I actually don't go and look at a lot of the other vendors because I'm hunting around for people I want to talk to. Uh I can tell you this will be boring and no one will want to hear this. Uh One of the cool things that I'm seeing is that form, fit, function, and ergonomics are finally in the fire service. Like everyone's driving that. And ultimately, they are trying to find the most comfortable and most user friendly stuff out there, whether it be from gloves or hoods or PPE, uh, to even the tools and equipment we use. Now, I didn't see this, but one thing that you showed me, and I think we ought to buy it, uh, is I'm going to call it the Halligan pry bar hydraulic tool.
The Hamatro T1.
Yeah. I I personally would really like that tool. Uh, Not that I've really worked a fire scene in a while, but my tool of choice was always a maul, and then when the pig came out, I went to a pig, and that was my tool. Uh, and I like that pry tool. There's I really like that tool. I see a lot of uses for that. Uh, there's some pretty interesting science coming out on the nozzles now. Um, they're really getting that dialed in. Some of the hose out there's ridiculously awesome. It's ridiculously expensive too. Um, but they're getting the friction loss just damn near down to zero,
Yeah.
and that it's kind of absurd at what they're doing with hose now.
And it's interesting. I walk the show floor at FRI with a guy that's been around since his previous job was walking Moses's dog,
Hmm.
and then a guy that's been around a couple of years that's pretty savvy, gung ho, kind of on the edge of knowing a lot, right? Pretty good spectrum of people, and then our office admin who knows absolutely nothing about anything that we're doing yet, right? So she's in the early stages of the learning process. So I walked the show floor with these people, and it was interesting to see, you know, the middle of the road guy gravitate towards something and be like, that is neat, that is cool, and then me and the other old guys telling him, well, that's been out for 25 years.
Right.
That's just, that thing's been around. No, but I don't know why nobody. I don't know why we don't use it. I have no idea. It's a thing. It's there. It's a tool. Nobody's brought it up before, and he's just thinking it's the greatest thing in the world. And I'm like, yeah, it's been around forever. And one of those was the little Scotty canister foam nozzle thing that you put the cylinder of the foam solid into, and he's like, oh, that's great. Can't clog up. No, probably not. Don't know why nobody uses it. I mean, I'm sure somebody uses it because they're still making it and selling it 25 years later. But yeah, it's interesting that he gravitated to something like that. And to me, it was just something I would walk right on past.
Well, and part of the problem that you run into is that you have history and tradition impeding progress.
Yeah.
And there can be some actual really awesome equipment out there that's not expensive, but you're not going to ever have it on your truck because the senior man will absolutely refuse to allow that to be there.
And on the flip side of this whole deal, I'm gravitated to the custom embroidered, super awesome recliner. And the admin girl's like, "You don't need that," and I'm like, "Oh no, I need that. That is a thing."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just here was the other kind of weird thing that I've been noticing at all of these shows is you go to these shows and you're seeing less and less and less of like fire stuff, and you're seeing more and more and more of insurance, gimmicky technology solutions.
Phone cases and
Right.
just garbage
Yeah.
crap, right? That I can go to the kiosk in the mall and go see the same thing.
Right. So you're seeing more and more of that creep in. I saw that at Louisiana. I saw that at FRI. I saw that at SFFMA. I saw that at Teaks. I saw that at TDM. I saw that at Gone to Texas. And there's another one.
Yeah. So I noticed that I haven't been to FRI probably since, I don't know, 05, 06, somewhere in there. I went I went back then when it was in Dallas. I don't know what year specifically. That show was probably 3 times the size then versus now.
Right.
And I think that it's becoming cost prohibitive for the vendors to invest in what those shows cost to go to because there's just no return on it, right? And I don't think that I think they're looking for things to stick in there, and they're just scrambling to find booths, people to rent booth space.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I mean, and the story goes on for all things non-political and inflation related. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the cost of doing business is so dang high anymore. Uh, I mean, I was shocked when I saw and heard what our company paid for our 20 by 20 booth, Delta. And I mean, holy crap. And total people registered for that show was only a little over, I think, 3,500.
Yeah.
Uh, I think another really interesting part of this discussion is it would make sense that if the fire service in general is having a hard time with recruiting and retention, and you're seeing a decrease in, for lack of better words, attendance at the shows, gee, I wonder if that's related.
Yeah.
And the short answer is yes, it is related. And I think they need to reevaluate the way they're doing their shows to be able to draw a broader market.
Yeah. And I think there's probably opportunity there for, uh, you could have, yeah, you could put that thing out as a recruiting opportunity for departments and let the departments have a smaller booth space, or you could do it. There's a lot of things that could happen there, you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, I just, I don't know. I don't, we're just two schmucks in
Yeah.
kind of north central Texas. And what the hell do we know
Yeah.
other than just stating the obvious?
Had some nice visits there on that at the FRI. Did get to spend some time over at the MVFC booth. Just had some good conversations there. Looking forward to doing some more stuff with those folks and expanding on what we've already been doing with them.
Yeah, I'm actually embarrassed. I didn't even see the NVFC booth until Jesse told me about it. I would have actually gone over there and spent more time over there if I'd have known. Uh, but like I said, when I'm at that shows, I'm
Working.
working and talking to other vendors and trying to catch people that I know. So
Yeah. Yeah, that and down the road we'll we'll cultivate those relationships and do more. That'd be a good booth for us to be sitting at and
oh
hanging
yeah,
stickers and
100%.
doing some cross marketing stuff. It just would be that because those hardcore career guys aren't stopping at that booth.
No, no. And on Friday, I did see quite a few volunteers there, which I kind of figured.
Yeah,
Uh, so from a traffic point of view, Thursday or Wednesday when the show opened was good traffic then. Thursday was pretty slow, uh, but it was a constant stream of people revolving.
yeah, that's what I'd heard from some other vendors. Is that Thursday was it was steady enough that you didn't get to stop.
Right.
It was it wasn't overwhelming, but it was just there was no time to duck out and eat a bite. There was no time for it was just a steady stream of people on Thursday, and then Friday was busy, but it was more laxed. There was dead time in there and stops, and that's kind of the gist I got from another vendor that we were
Yeah. And
talking
then
to.
Friday you saw lots
Yeah,
of volunteers.
yeah.
And
I think last time I went on a Saturday. I mean, I think that the schedule used to involve that show being there on Saturday morning or Saturday pretty much all day, and I think that just from my perspective as a volunteer, I think that's a good day to catch more of those volunteers is on that Saturday morning time.
I can tell you the one of the more interesting things that I saw had nothing directly to do with the convention. It had to do with our hotel. So Thursday, as we're coming in from dinner, there are people walking around in animal costumes. and the hotel was hosting a fuzzy convention at the exact same time that the firefighters were there. So I was obligated to go to the bar and watch what excitement was going to ensue from that. Shockingly, there was lots of group photos. No, I just FRI was good. I did look at the speakers they had. They had good speakers. They had good classes. I don't know what those classes cost. I suspect it's probably a pretty penny.
Some of them were pretty reasonable. I looked at the class list because I considered taking some classes, but there wasn't anything that specifically just stood out as something that I was going to give up the time for midweek. And I'm in my busy time of year too, so it made it a little more difficult for me to give up the time. But uh, there was some interesting stuff. Some of it was really cheap, some of it wasn't. There was some expensive classes there, but uh, all in all, I mean, $100, few $100, you could have taken something that was beneficial. Not a big deal.
I do know that the International Fire Chiefs Association is having a, I don't want to call it a conference. I'm going to call it a series of classes up in, I think it's in Denton in October, that I'm going to probably look at trying to jump in one or two of those. I also think I'll be working there at that time, but I want to try and take something there. That's something else that we need to buy a membership in.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely need to do that. There, there's a lot of good organizations. Taffy's another one I'm interested in maybe bouncing down to the Taffy
What's
conference.
Taffy?
Texas Association of Fire Educators.
Yeah.
I think that that's a group that represents who I am. So yeah, I'm solidly in the camp of a fire educator. So
Well, we're starting to drone on here. We good on time, or we got anything else you want me to yammer about?
we're good. I didn't know if there's anything else we needed to touch on before we bounce out of here, but uh definitely if you haven't listened to the last handful of episodes, this is the first time Matt and I've sat down and recorded in the studio per se in
Ooh,
a
probably a
month and a
month and a
half.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit. We had stuff that we had in the can, and we had some guests, and we've been on the road, and this is kind of the first time we've sat in our home turf and just had the two of us engaged into something. It's kind of exciting. You got any other stuff on the horizon?
Uh, we're gonna have a stimulating conversation on insurance with the city.
Oh,
Ooh.
excellent.
Eh.
I have been working kind of behind the scenes working on some stuff with the marketing director for the state Fireman Fire Marshal Association about developing some coursework on marketing education for volunteer fire departments. That's a little side project I've started chipping away at over the last couple weeks that I don't even think you and I have sat down and talked about this. But
Well, not directly, but we've had the marketing discussion for the last 4 years.
yeah,
I could
so
guarantee you, whatever cliff notes you have, you could bust them out. We could sit there and talk about that for 8 hours straight.
yeah, it's in the early stages. Just kind of get some wind behind it in the sales so that we can push that thing forward. And I think the class develops itself pretty easily. Uh, and I don't know what the delivery is going to be. I don't know anything as of yet, but something that we're working on. It's going to be a very much a how-to guide class that she and I are working on. Uh, I'd honestly say mostly her than me, but I'm the uh, I'm the fire service instructor side of it. She's the expert side of it. I'm just there to stick my thumb up in the air and
Yeah.
say yes,
Approved.
yes. Well, and to be the voice of the this is important, this works, listen to this kind of stuff, and be the example,
Right.
right?
Well, in talking about the example, uh, we have a department. We'll go a little longer. We have a department near us that's they've got a rough patch that they're going through right now, and I can't I can't emphasize that when you are when you are having troubles, we'll just call it a rough patch, and when you are getting at face value good advice from experienced people, I would recommend to consider more in depth as to the what they're telling you to do and why, and to follow through. Give a very serious think as to why you want to follow through with it. Uh, because good, bad, or indifferent, when you start having experienced chiefs from multiple departments all telling you the same thing and you're going against it, eh, there's a certain point there where, or for lack of better words and not to be cruel, you're not considering all the options.
Well, and I just experience dictates to me that you can't steer a problem from behind it.
Right.
You have to get in front of it, and no matter what that problem is, you can't steer it from behind it or the sidelines.
Now,
You have your effect is so limited. Now, does that mean you don't come at it from all four sides? No, you definitely do that, but depending on what it is, uh, you may need to do a little bit extra in the back or the side. But if you're trying to steer it from behind, you're basically setting yourself up for a failure that you don't know that's going to happen.
yeah, it just and another thing I'm going to add to this, understand other roles in your jurisdiction and what they actually can and will do for you. So understand that if you're in a city, the city manager isn't just there to, you know, finalize your budget. City council's not just there to approve your budget. Uh, if you're in a county, understand the commissioners aren't there to just be glad handed and kiss babies. They are a resource. The county judge is a resource. The sheriff, uh, whatever different political entities are out there, they are a resource. Uh, there's a reason that you have people in counties that are either elected or appointed positions. You know, they hold positions, whether it be finance or legal or just general guidance. Don't try and necessarily work that critter completely to death by yourself, especially if you don't know the legal side of it, or if you don't know the financial side of it, or you don't understand the insurance side of it, or your SOPs and SOGs are just a convoluted disaster and how to get that fixed. Because if you start taking, there's two different analogies you can use here: start stacking dominoes against you, or if you start getting chinks in the armor and you're not addressing it. The problem is that when it fails and there's no stopping it. And then you get to introduce politics. And politics is its own special critter. And I won't say politics takes a special person, but it takes The special part of it is it takes a person to realize when it needs attention.
Yeah, takes a certain candor and
I mean, I know some really, really direct, I would say not political chiefs or county commissioners or sheriffs or police chiefs or whatever. I wouldn't argue they're political in nature, but what they are good at is when it comes time to talking, it's matter of fact. They have their crap together and they put together a very good presentation. Um, and it's like Dragnet, just the facts. And there's a, well, I just think there needs to be a more emphasis on politics in general. Um, because what is politics? Only thing politics is convincing someone to agree with your opinion idea.
yeah,
That's all it is.
sales.
It's just sales. Some people are really, really good at a sales pitch and they don't have a clue what the hell they're talking about, but they make it sound really good. So they always get what they want. Other side of it, they might be a terrible talker, but they come in prepared and they just hammer out the facts. And fact of the matter is facts are hard to argue with.
Yeah. I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Yeah, and again, out of respect for that department, I would argue the chief is definitely the right guy for the position. And he did everything right. I would argue he did everything right. The only thing that he got behind the power curve on was the politics.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is the politics, eh,
Frankly, was the answer.
that was the answer. Um, and
Or he politicked with the wrong people, possibly.
you know, there's another statement, and I make this a lot to my guys. Uh, I always like to ask them this: what is the sole job of a chief? They have one responsibility. What is that? Their job is to make the right decision, not the popular decision, the right decision. Okay. And what is the right decision made by? It's by the organization. You have to make the right decision by the organization first. Because the fact of the matter is if you're making the right decision by the organization, the membership is comprised of the organization. You're making the right decision by the membership. So in this particular circumstance, the membership really, really, really wanted one thing. And I would argue the membership was dead wrong on this one thing. And the second that you put one foot forward down that path, there's no going back. And I just personally don't think the politics were worked hard enough to keep both paths open. You didn't have to jump off the fork as fast as you did. And there was things that could have been set up in place to force the right decision.
Yeah, the problem is that whole story has a lot of moving parts, and
Right.
it's not something that we can vaguely just gloss over in a few minutes. But the reality is that there there was very few right answers and a lot of wrong answers there,
Right.
and
And it was a lot of work.
and it was a lot easier to choose some of the wrong answers than it was to choose the right answers.
Right. And again, this is nothing against that chief. As far as I'm concerned, right guy, right time. He performed phenomenally. We're armchair quarterbacking this, and we are using this for reference for ourselves and bettering ourselves going forward.
Yeah.
Learning from their mistakes and lessons learned.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where even really, really good people with the right intentions, when the dominoes are stacked against you, you can get caught in the cascade.
Yep. And I'm pretty good at those little strategic political values, battles. I've accomplished a lot with a few of those through my tenure.
Now,
Uh,
and we have two completely different perspectives on that.
yeah.
Uh,
And
I
but my background and my situations dictate that it was honestly back to my statement that you can't steer it from the rear.
no, yeah, and I even in the way that I attack that stuff, and it's 100% from the front. I mean, the difference is that I've always taken the perspective of if I didn't win that argument, it's because I didn't explain it well enough. So I'll just throw together a crushing amount of data and facts and push it forward. And we have the distinct advantage that who can really challenge it?
Yeah.
And if you're truthful in your facts and your data and you're not stretching it at all and you're just painting a clear picture, there's no way to really argue against it. Our benefit is that at least locally we have very competent city council and management.
Yeah. No.
So
And a group that's truly uh, they have the city and the citizens' best interests in mind, but at the same time they're open to figuring out solutions to problems that don't involve mutual destruction.
yeah,
And
or
it
common group think.
yeah, it's truly a blessing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're at a good wrap it up,
Okay.
put a bow on it, and
Stick a fork in it.
yeah, remind them. And I will tell you that the little Facebook page that I made is exploded, and there's going to be some more posts on there about convincing those people to subscribe, because if that number of people was subscribed in avenues that I could see the data. The problem with podcasting, it's stupid. It's completely stupid. It's so disjointed, and you have a hosting deal, and hosting shows you how many times it was downloaded, and kind of some information about that, and then it goes to all these players, and every one of these players has a different set of analytics, and some of them you have access to, and some of them you do not. And it just is so disconnected and weird. So it's truly hard to grasp what kind of the size or scale of your presence in the podcast world. I know that we've hurdled the hurdles, right? We've lasted longer than most. We have, and truly what keeps it going is the people that reach out directly to us. And if you want to reach out to us and you want to be on the show, you want to just talk, you want to have a conversation off camera or off mic, it's great.
Yeah, we have no problem, not just like we've been doing,
Yeah,
never referencing the chief or the organization. And I mean, having just a good discussion. Obviously, we were extremely vague on this one. So
yeah.
that makes it kind of hard to understand. But we have no problem being completely general and non-referential. And
And the amount of emails and contact we get,
yeah,
that's just, it's, we return an email and that's the end of it. And we never even talk about it on here. So we're approachable, very much so. Would encourage anybody that's still listening at this point to, go out there, at least let us know, give us a review, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, let help show us that it's beneficial for you. By all means, reach out. Matt will bounce through the ways to get us, but it's it's all part of the cycle of what is It Tastes Like Burning. And also, if you bounce onto the Facebook, you can see we got a new logo. We had somebody that was way better than me, which is not hard, but we got somebody that was on a different, like, stellar level of way better than me, that helped us out with some artwork. And Austin, thank you so much for
Yeah.
the artwork. It was great.
New scope
You'll
marketing.
probably never hear this, but because this is not in your wheelhouse of things to listen to, but thanks. That it's awesome. We love it. We put it on other things, like we're getting a big backdrop banner for it. Uh,
I think that's in.
they're providing that to us.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So uh, definitely thanks to New Scope and thanks to Austin at New Scope, because that is so much appreciated that you don't know.
Yeah, it's just really cool. I mean, I I I really enjoy the podcast. I hope we continue to do it because we keep stumbling into local people that are just beyond phenomenal and supportive, and then we stumble into just other non-local people that are really awesome. And there's, again, the whole purpose of this is networking, community messaging. And I mean, it's just there's so much potential in just having a buddy.
Yeah. And look for us to be on the Rhythm and Rescue podcast. Uh, those guys want to have us on. We haven't settled on a day or anything yet, but uh, that is a YouTube, TikTok. It's video. It's live on Facebook and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, we're gonna remotely bounce into their podcast. Really cool. A lot different than what we are. I mean, we're pretty niche in what we talk about, but they're all over the place, and they have a deal called Whiskey Wednesday.
Yes.
Yep. So we're in on Whiskey Wednesday, and they got Greg, the Divine Fire Chief, and you say that my wife giggles every time I say the Divine Fire Chief, and his handle is the Office of the Divine Fire Chief, and you know, but Greg's great dude. His partner Chuck is a Texas country music musician, up and coming, like pretty popular guy. Got some stuff that's made it to the Billboard. Like he's legit, and so they talk everything from music to fire to whiskey to the whole nine yards. So we can definitely be of use in that conversation.
Yeah, the guest speaker that we're going to try and grab, I was telling you about earlier, Chief Jacob Johnson out of Pearland.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
he's volunteer, came up volunteer, now career. Um, and his message is do your damn job. And that's well, frankly, that's something we're going to talk about at our business meeting coming up. Uh, but no, we're hoping to grab him sooner than later. So, and I kind of think that's the next part for us is continue to just reach out.
Yeah. No,
Start.
that's been one of the best parts of this whole experience with this podcast is just the contacts and just the the conversations that we're having across the country,
Yeah.
and if you're that guy in Australia that's downloading us religiously, reach out. We'll figure out what the difference is between Australia and Texas.
Oh my God, I would die to just be able to do an interview with someone there, or Europe,
Yeah,
or Asia.
yeah, yeah. Just reach out. We'll figure it out. It's easy. Zoom.
Even
And
Russians accepted.
there's been a few there, but I know that here lately the kind of Italy, UK, France, Germany, they've all been real hot spots for downloads. The Whoever's in Australia is very consistent. Like we put out an episode, they download an episode. Like there's not a big following in Australia, but they're super consistent. They're listening to what our content.
Whoever you are, bless you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I mean, and you're probably some dude from Texas that's just stuck in Australia for some reason, but whatever. We're happy to have you, and just reach out. So how can they get a hold of us, Matt?
Well, you can always find us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. Shoot your questions, concerns, comments, issues. Litigation goes to Jesse at a separate email. You can find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning. You can find us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And we're now on Facebook, bouncing around pretty hot and heavy there.
Yeah, I screwed it up and made the wrong kind of Facebook, so we're going to hit a wall at some point, but yeah, it's fine.
We'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it when we deal with it.
And other than that, if you are blessed enough to have our phone numbers or personal emails, by all means, you can shoot us something there. Just expect a delay in response.
Yep.
Other than that, this is Matt.
This is Jesse.
Thanks for listening.